It's quite perfect. Thanks so much, Penny. My name is Jace Turner, and I am one of the librarians here at the Santa Barbara Public Library. And on behalf of the Public Library, I want to invite or thank all of you for showing up tonight to tonight's Book to Action program, Be Waterwise, Take Action to Protect Our Creeks and Oceans. I'm sure you all know, but just in case you don't, Book to Action is the library's annual spring community-wide reading book program that focuses on a nonfiction title that will have a broad appeal and interest with the hopes of inspiring members of our community to engage with important topics and make meaningful connections with each other while taking action to improve their lives. This year's title is Island Visions. Thank you, Penny. And programming is focused, of course, on environmental action, awareness, and sustainability initiatives. The project was supported in whole or in part by the U.S. Institute of Museum and Library Sciences Services under the provisions of the Library Services and Technology Act, administered in California by the State Librarian. We have a very special program tonight with special speakers. Penny Owens is the Education and Community Outreach Director for Santa Barbara Channelkeepers. And Liz Smith is the Outreach Coordinator for the city's Creek Division. At the end of the program, we'll have time for a Q&A. I'll be monitoring the chat feature. And lastly, for everyone who's attending tonight, I'll send out a program survey. Once you fill out that program survey, we can kind of put free copies of Island Visions in your hands. So, oh, sorry, you can't probably see it. Thanks, Penny. But you can just let me know your name and at which Santa Barbara Public Library branch location you'd like to pick up your free copy of Island Visions. So without further ado, I present to you Penny and Liz. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jace. All right, let me get my screen sharing happening here. All right, well, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Liz and I are both really excited to be here sharing some tips and actions that folks can take to protect our creeks and our ocean. So we were trying to come up with a fun, witty title for our presentation, and then we went with just the straight and, and obvious, being watershed wise. So following the way they introduced local community members in the book Island Visions, Liz and I thought we would share some of our connections to water and the environment and the region. And so I am one of 4 kids, and my name is Penny, and I work for Santa Barbara Channelkeeper, and we were wild as children. And my mom used to take us to the beach, I think just to wear us out and get some peace and quiet in the afternoons. And so I grew up visiting the beaches of Southern California, boogie boarding, building sand castles, catching sand crabs, and just having a great time. I first visited one of our Channel Islands as part of a science class in 7th grade, and we went to Anacapa Island, and I believe it must have been on one of the old Island Packers boats quite a while ago now. And didn't expect to, but ended up actually learning to scuba dive in college and studying biology and environmental science, and then worked for a professor of mine doing kelp forest surveys along the coast of California from Santa Cruz all the way down into Baja, Mexico for a couple years. And that experience led me to my job at Channelkeeper. At the time, they were part of a regional kelp restoration project, and we're doing monitoring and restoration, mostly monitoring at the Carpinteria Reef, the kelp forest there, that little high point near the outlet of the Carpinteria Salt Marsh. And then complementary to that, running an education program. And so that was kind of combining 2 of my passions, which was being in the water, on the water, under the water, and then also sharing that information and the importance of and teaching and talking about those marine ecosystems with students. And so here I have been at Channelkeeper for quite a while now. And I've been lucky enough to work with Liz at the Creeks Division for many of those years. So Liz?
Yeah, so thanks, Penny. I'm Liz Smith. I'm the Creeks Outreach Coordinator for the city of Santa Barbara. I grew up in the Sacramento area, Stockton, Sacramento, kind of Central Valley. And earliest time I remember visiting the ocean, I was about 6 years old and went to Santa Cruz with my family. But as a child, grew up rafting, the Stanislaus River, the Tuolumne River, kayaking on Don Pedro Reservoir, gold panning in the little creeks up in Gold Country, and just spending a lot of time out in nature with my dad and my brothers. I have 5 brothers, so they're all younger, so it was a lot of fun, but we had some wild times just kind of running around, hiking and camping and just enjoying nature. And I first visited Santa Barbara at 16 and decided that I was going to come to UCSB. So I did, and I was studying film at UCSB and went back to Sacramento for a couple of years, then came back to Santa Barbara and haven't really left since, and was fortunate enough to start working for the Creeks Division 15 years ago now. and I get to use my film and art background and do the really fun stuff here at the Creeks Division, outreach events like this. I get to produce television ads and programs and put on community events, and so be creative in support of our environment. So it's a really great position here. Thanks. So I'm going to first introduce the Creeks Division. We were established in 2001. We're funded by Measure B, which is a 2% hotel bed tax. So anytime someone stays in a hotel in the city of Santa Barbara, they are charged a 12% tax, 10% goes to the city's general fund, and 2% comes to the Creeks Division just for creek restoration and water quality improvement. Our programs are guided by our stormwater management program, which is a state permit through the Water Quality Control Board. We conduct regular creek and ocean water quality monitoring. We have weekly creek cleanups. We send contractors out to kind of known trouble spots where we know dumping is taking place. And we have a full-time code enforcement officer who manages those cleanups and also responds to reports of pollution in our creeks and in our storm drains. Go ahead, Penny, next slide. And just a little quick snapshot of some of our recent projects. At the top left, you can see the new footbridge over Arroyo Burro at the Arroyo Burro open space. We just completed a large restoration project there. We are working with UCSB on a study of microplastics found in stormwater to see how much is there and how can we prevent it from entering the stormwater. At the top right is kind of a collage of different colors of the Andre Clark Bird Refuge. We're currently in the permitting phase of a restoration project there. If you live in town, you're probably familiar with the occasional stink events that happen. So we are trying to improve water quality in the bird refuge and help prevent those events from happening. At the bottom left, you can see we just put in a stormwater treatment, underground treatment project at Bonnet Park. So this is under the field now. It's just all covered over in grass, but this takes runoff from the neighborhood surrounding the park and lets it soak into the ground before flowing into Old Mission Creek. The bottom middle, you can see one of our permeable paver projects. So we've installed these at several locations, city-owned property, parks, streets, sidewalks throughout the city over the past several years. And again, that just lets rainwater and runoff flow through the pavers into the ground below rather than quickly running off into our storm drains, which you can see on the bottom right. And this is an example of a storm drain that has a screen on it, and we installed screens on most of the approximately 1,500 storm drains throughout the city several years ago. So next slide. And how can you get involved with the Creeks Division? You can join us for volunteer events. We often have creek cleanups, beach cleanups, native planting events, sometimes storm drain marking events. You can, if you have a business or a community organization, you can adopt a local beach. You can celebrate our annual Creek Week in September. You can participate in Creeks Advisory Committee meetings or even become a member of our committee. Penny's been a member for several years, and that committee meets monthly and helps guide our programs and projects. If you are a teacher or if you have a child that is in school, you can ask us about our free youth watershed education programs and field trips that are provided through a contractor, Explore Ecology. If you own a business, you can participate in our Clean Creeks Certified Business Program. And to learn more about us, sign up for our monthly e-news and follow us on social media.
Thanks, Liz. And we'll have that information for you at the end of the presentation for folks looking to find those channels. And so I work with an independent 501c3 nonprofit called Santa Barbara Channelkeeper. We were actually founded as a program of the Environmental Defense Center back in 1999, and then broke off and became an independent organization in 2001. We're part of the Waterkeeper Alliance, which is a network of organizations that all work to protect and restore their local waterways. And here in California, there's about 13 other waterkeeper organizations working to protect and restore their local watersheds. And we're fortunate to have statewide representation at the statewide policy level through the California Coastkeeper Alliance. Part of the waterkeeper organizations is that part of being a waterkeeper is that you also have to have a boat or a vessel or something to patrol your local waterways. And so this photo here in the lower right is our research vessel, very creatively named the Channelkeeper. It's a 31-foot JC East Coast lobster fishing boat, and we have her in a slip in the Santa Barbara Harbor in Marina 4. And so that's a little bit about how Channelkeeper came to be. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about some of our recent projects here. And so Channelkeeper works in 4 main program areas to achieve our goal of protecting and restoring the Santa Barbara Channel and its watersheds. And so we work to monitor local waterways, and thanks to the great work that the Creeks Division does in the city of Santa Barbara, we're able to focus in other regions. And so we have long-standing community science monitoring programs in the Goleta Slough watersheds, in the Carpinteria watersheds, and also in the Ventura River, which is the southern border of our area that we work. And so those upper 2 left photos are some of our, actually, they're both students that we've worked with as interns, helping us collect some of our water quality data. And we look at kind of background baseline water quality parameters, things like temperature, dissolved oxygen, pH, conductivity, turbidity, which is water clarity, and then we also run samples to look at indicator bacteria and nutrient levels as well. So that's some of our monitoring. And the next photo over in the middle is some about the monitoring we do from our research vessel. And that is, we're taking plankton samples there, looking at harmful algal blooms and sending those samples on to both researchers at UCSB and also to the state toxic shellfish monitoring programs where they track some of those algae and the algae blooms. We also advocate for clean water, and we do this by not only working to enforce local environmental laws, ensuring that new laws that are passed protect our waterways and the old ones are being enforced. And so some of our policy work, the photo on the lower left there is looking at excess nutrient runoff from irrigated agricultural lands. And so we've spent many, many years working with the Regional Water Quality Control Board to ensure that the permit program for runoff from these irrigated agricultural lands protects water quality for communities and the streams and waterways downstream from those. We've also been working really hard for many years to advocate that for water to stay in the Ventura River for minimum flows. And so that photo there in the middle is near Foster Park on the Ventura River. And believe it or not, during high flow seasons, that's actually a really important resource, not only for wildlife, but also for the community. It's a really popular swimming hole. But as you can see in this photo, there's not a lot of swimming happening there right now, or when that photo was taken. I'm pleased to share that there is water in that location now, and actually as part of the long legal process to ensure that there is water in a flowing and healthy, thriving river, there is some minimum flows that are being required to stay there. In that reach of the river. We also get to partner with great organizations like the Creeks Division and others. And then we, to educate the community, participate in community outreach events. And then we also host some of our own programs. And so this picture on the upper right is we just hosted our 19th annual juried student art show by local high school students. And the theme of the show is What the Channel Means to Me. And that is the winning piece by San Marcos High School student Molly Currant. And it's a cormorant with its baby in the nest, and she even incorporated some pollution and items into the nest. And then we also use our research boat to take students out up the coast just a little bit to see. They stay on the boat, but we send divers down with a camera that's hooked to a monitor on the boat. So sort of like a live dive experience where we share the wonders and beauty of our kelp forests. And the students learn about marine conservation and marine protected areas, and then cruise back to the harbor. And I wanted to highlight another recent project, and this is a great opportunity for action and for our community members, and that's our Watershed Brigade. So that's our community cleanup program. And this was, we've always done cleanups. We've been, I don't even know what year we adopted the West Beach as our adopted beach with the Creeks Division, but during COVID, go ahead, Liz.
15 years you're coming up on.
15 years, okay. And the name of the game at West Beach is microtrash, microplastics and microtrash. And folks are always surprised by when you take the time and really dig in how much little bits of trash you find. And I always say that we're kind of that last line of defense before it can be blown or swept out to sea. And so our Watershed Brigade program was born during COVID when we weren't able to gather and host community events. And we found that a lot of folks were looking to these natural settings in our creeks or swimming holes or beaches for a little restoration, a chance to be outside. And unfortunately, there was a significant increase in trash and litter that was being left behind in a lot of these locations. And so we were able to create little packets and send folks out individually, but then create like a virtual community. So separate, safely, but together. And now as we're able to revisit hosting in-person events, we're doing that as well on a monthly basis. But we're really so proud and so grateful for all our amazing Watershed Brigade community cleanup volunteers. We've worked with over 600 different community members. Over 12,000 pounds of trash has been picked up at over 365 different locations. So that's your trailheads, your creeks, your swimming hole, your favorite beach, your neighborhood park. And so it's been a really fun way to connect with the community. And I'll make a plug for our upcoming event we have coming up on Saturday, May 21st. It's this lower picture here. That was a lobster trap cleanup that we did last year at Elwood Beach, just down from Elwood Mesa, kind of near the Bacara. And we worked with commercial lobster fishermen to collect. We worked with volunteers to gather all the traps, and then they were tied up to floats and brought out to the commercial fishing vessel and then transported back to the harbor to be disposed of properly. And that incredible crew of volunteers you see there spent hours digging and lugging the traps out. And our next one that we're doing on the 21st of May, we're going to target like Black Rock Beach, which is just east of Goleta Slough, or if you're familiar with Moore Mesa, it's just a little bit west of there, and we'll have more info about that. So ways to get involved with Channelkeeper. We're always looking for community members to join us in our work to protect and restore the channel and its watersheds. You know, we'd love to see more folks be part of our Watershed Brigade, be a voice and speak out for clean water. There's many opportunities to engage in the process. Just sending a simple email to your elected officials, you'd be surprised how powerful that can be. Report pollution, which Liz and I are going to talk a little bit more about. We invite folks to join us at events. We have a monthly e-newsletter, and of course, we have our social media channels as well. All right, so just to take a step before we start talking about some of the other actions we can all take to be watershed wise, I always like to take a moment and think of the place that we are on these ancestral lands of the Chumash, and look at the channel and these incredible Mount Santa Ynez Mountains behind us, our short, steep, flashy creeks and watersheds, the incredible Channel Islands offshore, not only a national marine sanctuary, but also a national marine park. Sorry, not marine, national park. In addition, we have marine protected areas along our coast and out at the islands. And our local creeks are home to steelhead trout, all different kinds of wildlife, and we live in a really unique stretch of California that's really biologically rich and beautiful. And I think it's part of why many of us call this beautiful spot home. So Liz and I both spent a lot of time talking about watersheds and what is a watershed. And I always just like to take a moment and remind folks. So watershed's just literally an area of land that drains to a common waterway. They're typically, geologists will sometimes call them drainage basins, which I think makes a little more sense to me, but watershed works for me too. You can think of the land shedding the water to our dear friend gravity works with us here to a common waterway. The watersheds are often named after the main waterway within that watershed, but you can have sub watersheds within. And so these little yellow lines are kind of showing, you know, your peaks create of the mountains and the hills create your borders within your watershed. And water and rainfall runs over the land into the small drainages and tributaries into the larger rivers and then out to the ocean. And so here in Santa Barbara with our short and steep and flashy watersheds, we're very much connected to not only our creeks and our waterways, but also the ocean.
And here I just included a watershed map of the city of Santa Barbara. So the yellow outlines are the watershed boundaries, and you can see Arroyo Burro, Mission Creek, Laguna Creek are our three main watersheds in the city. And I like to share with people that I've measured in our mapping system. And if you're in the city of Santa Barbara, you are never more than about a mile away from a local creek. So that's not very far. And as I mentioned before, with 1,500 storm drains within the city, just if you imagine how quickly a pollutant can get from a person, the source, into our creeks and the ocean is just, it's very close, even when you don't feel like you're right in nature. So next slide, Penny. So we would like to talk a little bit about only rain down the drain, which is a tagline you'll hear from a lot of stormwater folks. And just a reminder that storm drains flow into our creeks and ocean untreated. So a lot of folks do mistakenly believe that water that flows into the storm drain ends up at the wastewater treatment plant, but that is not the case. These pipes flow right into our creeks and sometimes directly onto the beach. So next slide, we're going to look at some examples of how you can take action by recognizing and reporting water pollution. So as I mentioned, we have a full-time code enforcement officer who responds to reports of pollution or illicit discharge. And here is a postcard that we give out to city staff, since city staff are all over working out in the fields, and we train them and we ask them to keep an eye out for pollutants. And so today we're going to train you to keep an eye out for pollutants and let us know when you see them. So that's an easy way to take action, is just be eyes out in the city for us. So you can see in residential, things like home improvement waste, yard waste, pet waste, creekside items are usually pretty obvious. If you see large items dumped next to or in the creek, please let us know. We'll come and take care of it. Restaurants mop wash water and pressure washing their patios or their trash enclosures. If they are doing that, they should be containing the water, not letting it flow into the street. Construction sites, again, that's a big one. There's a lot of materials that can easily come off of construction sites. And so you can just see this full list, and we are going to do a little slideshow to show you some examples. Penny, do you want to kick that off?
Yes. All right. So when we were first planning this, I've worked with a lot of schools on Zoom, and I was imagining the little like hand raise icon, but I forgot that in the webinar platform format, it doesn't quite work like that. So, but here's an example of something you may see walking down the street. This looks like it's oh, you can raise your hand. Thank you, Bob, for letting me know. So that's, if you want to raise your hand, this was meant to kind of get you thinking and moving a little bit. Would this be something you would report? So this, it looks to me like some sediment runoff, maybe from a construction site or a residential property, hard to say. It's going directly into a storm drain, and keep in mind that excess sediment can have significant impacts on the turbidity in the stream or the creek, but also it can smother fish or invertebrate eggs or clog gills of any aquatic organisms. And so even though it may just look like excess dirt, sediment running off into the storm drain, it can have a big impact. So yes, Bob, you were correct. Please report this. All right, to you, Liz.
So here you can see someone changed their oil at home and then just sat it on the curb. And luckily this one, we got a call, it was leaking, but we got there before it leaked into the gutter and into the storm drain and into the creek. So is this an illicit discharge? Yes, please, if you see this around the community, let us know.
And I've seen that too. Also, I was just telling a class about how like used car oil right next to the creek, and we walked from their school to Sycamore Creek, and someone had left some used motor oil right next to the creek bank. All right, here's another rainy day example. It will rain again one day, we hope. And this is looks like some construction with, again, some sediment and a drain pipe going directly into the storm drain. Anyone want to raise their hand and say if you think you should report this? Any hand raisers? Well, yes, please do report this.
So next, this was a community member. They were cutting some tile or kind of colored concrete for a home improvement project and letting the water from the tile saw just go right on down the street and around the corner, eventually probably making it to a storm drain. So do we think this one is a violation?
Oh, someone raised their hands. Thank you. Oh, 3. Yes, thank you, folks. And yes.
You're correct. Yes.
All right, here we have another, looks like some gravel, some excess water running off. I don't know where the storm drain is, but it is likely on its way there. What do folks think? You guys are getting it. Awesome. We've got some hands raised. Absolutely. Please report this.
Now here's an example of a local business that was washing out their floor mats, a restaurant washing their floor mats in their parking lot. And now if the water had stayed in their parking lot and dried up and not gone anywhere, it's still not great, but we wouldn't be as concerned as, but what we often see is folks will have a drain in their parking lot and they just kind of don't really think about where that water is going, or maybe they think it's going to sewer, but in fact, it's often going from that drain right to a curb drain out onto the street and then down the gutter to a storm drain. So do we think this one is an illicit discharge?
I think people saw it immediately. Yeah, we've got a lot of hands raised here. Awesome, guys. Thank you. Yep, they're on it. Excellent. You guys are getting, yes, please. All right. Oh, this is one that my coworker observed. Downtown Santa Barbara. And yeah, we've got some hands raised here. So give you a hint at what we're looking at. This involves some sleuthing and detective work, and we actually worked with the city on this. But if you look at those clumps of white tissue looking paper, that is actually toilet paper. And so that was a plumbing mishap where a toilet was mistakenly plumbed directly to a storm drain. So it was an easy fix once they figured out what it was, and you were all very correct. Please report this.
Oh, and a little extra note on that one. Somebody probably just smelled that, right? Isn't that how you found out?
Probably, and then looked down and saw the TP and then
the drain cover and found it. So if you smell something that doesn't smell right, let us know.
And that's it. Yeah, definitely.
And here, this one looks like some concrete slurry from, again, from probably a construction site, running down the street, making a mess, ending up in the storm drain. What do we think, folks?
Lots of hands raised, Liz.
Yes. Terrible for water quality and for aquatic life. So definitely let us know if you see anything like this.
And here's another example of looks like some soapy water on its way towards the storm drain. And what do folks say? They've got it. They know to give us a call. And one note that the Creeks Division that was working with a campaign, I believe, was those mobile car washers. So we see a lot of those, and that's perfectly allowed, but they're supposed to capture their water and there's not supposed to be any runoff. And so we'll get into tips about where to wash your car if you do wash it later. Awesome. So folks get it. Yes, please report if you see that.
And here we have some dried paint, again, from probably just from a home improvement project. And a lot of times I mentioned, drains in parking lots, sometimes even in your own property, in your lawn or on at your home somewhere. You might have just a random drain in your yard and you kind of just don't really think about where it goes, but oftentimes they will go right out to the street. And so just being aware of where, if you're washing a paintbrush outside and it's fine to let it soak into the grass if that's what you're doing, or into the dirt, but just understanding if that's reaching a drain, where that drain is going. So would this one be a violation?
Seeing some hands raised.
Right.
Yep. And you can see that going right to the storm drain. Thanks, folks. Yep. Yes, please give us, well, not me, call the city. And then we wanted to just show an example here of some of the what in the industry we call best management practices, so BMPs. And those are, you'll see these with roadside construction projects, and some other practices here, just best practices for where to dispose of. So pouring some of that water down a drain so it goes to this wastewater treatment facility, making sure to, that's like a silt sedimentation fence. And then around that storm drain in the top left corner, we have some wattles, which is just a fun word, some straw wattles to slow the flow of water and trap sediment behind it and let the water pass through. And Liz, did you want to add anything to this slide?
Yeah, I was just like at the top right, you can see a local restaurant power washing their patio, which is of course they need to do. But you can see the employee here has a berm along the gutter and they're collecting the water with a shop vac. And again, like you said, throwing it into a mop sink or even a planter where it's not going to run off elsewhere. It's all about containing that water, containing any potential pollutants and disposing of them properly.
All right.
And so in addition to recognizing and reporting pollutants out when you're out and about, we thought we would show you some simple tips, just everyday actions you can take to help protect our creeks and ocean.
All right, so no brainer here, we think. Keep trash out of our streets, storm drains, and creeks, and you can do that just on your regular neighborhood walks or participate in one of the many great organized cleanup events. And I always kind of, for myself, take 3 for the sea, just picking up litter as I go.
We encourage people to sweep driveways and sidewalks rather than hosing or blowing debris into the street or gutter. We don't want, again, sediment we talked about a lot, and also yard waste is a big problem when it reaches the creeks and the ocean. It can increase nutrients. A lot of times there will be pesticides, lawn products on that material, and that's stuff that we don't want getting into our waterways.
Very important to always pick up after your pets, both at the beach, on the trails, in the neighborhood. I always try to make sure this is my pup next to a sign that was a joint project with the Creeks Division, the city and counties, I believe.
The countywide
To close the poop loop. So I'm sure many folks on this call have probably seen at the beach or on a trailhead when someone picks up the dog poop, and I'm sure they intend to come back and get it later, but that's closing the loop. So not only picking up the poop in the first place, but also making sure to dispose of it properly. And I always make sure I do what I call poop patrol with my pup. And this is my pup pictured in the picture here. She's very gray in the face now though, so it's so sweet to see her young pup there. I make sure to do poop patrol before it rains too, to help prevent any of that excess bacteria or anything making its way into the watershed or beyond my yard. So.
And so this, I think a lot of folks are already doing this due to our ongoing drought conditions, but take your car to a car wash where water is collected and treated rather than washing it home around the street, as we saw those pictures of the soap and foam going into the creek. If you are washing your car at home, wash on grass or gravel so water can soak into the ground, or you can, throw a couple sandbags in front of the nearest drain and just collect that water with a shop vac if you can.
And of course, use fertilizers and pesticides sparingly, and always be sure to follow directions. And Liz provided this great resource here, Our Water, Our World, that has a lot of great information about less toxic products and techniques to control pests. So please use both of these sparingly.
And practice good car care, fix leaks right away, and dispose of your auto fluids properly. Sometimes we do get calls about community members who are just leaving spots of oil and leaking fluids all over the street, and that is something that we will respond to. So again, if you see that happening, let us know, but hopefully we can fix the problem before it starts.
And following along that, be sure to properly use, store, and dispose of all household chemicals. And you can visit lessismore.org. It's the county's website with has information on how and where to dispose of hazardous household hazardous waste. And this shot looks like it's from the UCSB collection, where you can go on Saturdays during designated times to drop off household hazardous waste.
And you can help keep rain or stormwater on your property by using rain barrels or cisterns, as the picture in the middle. Direct your downspouts to landscaping or create a rain garden.
And they say that for a 1-inch rainstorm on a 1,000 square foot roof, we get 600 gallons of rainwater.
Yes.
So this is an area I could see us. The larger systems are obviously more efficient, but we have a lot of room for growth in some of these practices with rainwater harvesting. And we wanted to provide some of the numbers to call if you do see pollution. And thankfully, all these wonderful agencies work together and they'll communicate. So if you're not sure where you are exactly, don't worry about that. You can call for the County of Santa Barbara, it's 877-OUR-OCEAN. And for the creek city within the city of Santa Barbara, it will go to the creeks. I think it's forwarded directly to the enforcement phone, and they'll get right back to you. I call them regularly. Photos and video are always helpful as well. And then for the city of Goleta, you can call that number listed there. And then in an emergency, if it's hazardous waste or you suspect it might be a sewage spill, we want to call 911 so that they can immediately respond to that. And that's what we see in that photo here is an old sewer main that is backed up and overflowing. So that would be one where you would want to call 911 and they'll get the appropriate response out there. Liz, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would just add that a lot of times, even myself, I'll be cruising around town and I'll see something. It's not raining. There shouldn't be water running down the street. And so if you see something and you're not sure whether it's an illicit discharge, just give us a call. We are happy to go out and investigate and check it out. And our goal is not to get people in trouble. It's really to educate them. And so that's really what we try to do on our enforcement calls. So.
Right, to prevent it from happening again in the future.
Exactly.
And the Creeks Division, I don't know if you keep this statistic in your head, Liz, but the response rate for reported potentially illicit discharges is incredible.
Yeah, we try to respond the same day if at all possible, if not within 24 hours. So, yeah.
So with that, we wanted to take a minute and see if there's some questions. I'm sure there probably are. I'm going to take a peek here in the chat and see. Nobody has questions.
They know all about illicit discharges now. So
now you even know the industry lingo for it too.
Right.
Illicit discharge. Well, I'm not seeing any questions there.
No.
I'm sorry, you can't see my face, but you can hear my voice. I'll definitely be sending out kind of a follow-up email with kind of a summary of what you guys talked about tonight. Thank you so much for sharing your passion for clean creeks and protecting our watersheds. And so if anyone does have any questions, I'm happy to forward those along to both of you, if that's the case.
Great, yeah. And I think both Channelkeeper and I know the Creeks Division too, we're happy to answer any questions at any point following this. So
yeah. Okay, you want to show the last slide?
Yes, and real quick, I don't know if you guys have. So this last slide here has our contact info. My computer stopped advancing slides.
Uh-oh.
There we go. Did it work? Can you see it?
Yeah.
So it has both our websites and our social media channels, and we encourage you to reach out and follow us and contact us. And you can also, if you see anything that you're concerned could be potential pollution for waterways, you can always take photos and send that to Channelkeeper as well. And it did look like we might have one.
Yeah, there is one question actually. How much does the 2% tax generate?
Thank you, Susan. The 2% tax is usually in the neighborhood of $3 to $4 million a year. So, excuse me, I'm not sure exactly what it is this year, but usually in that neighborhood.
Well, thanks everyone that was able to join us tonight. We really appreciate you taking time to be here and learn tips and actions to take to be watershed wise. And I believe there's some fun copies of this incredible book that is just so inspiring to flip through. And I hope everyone gets a chance to pick up their free copy from the library. I think everyone gets one for tonight, right, Jason?
Definitely, definitely. I love how many contributors there are in this book and how so many of them are local. And I recognize so many of the people in there. I thought, oh my gosh, they have all this knowledge that I had no idea they had, and to share it in this beautiful book. The format is really incredible. So yes, everyone that showed up tonight will get a free copy of the book. I'll be adding more information about that in the follow-up email, but you guys are fantastic. Thank you so much for doing this tonight.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. Hope everyone has a great evening. Is it okay to end the webinar, everyone?
Yep.
All righty. Well, take care. Thanks again, Jace. Have a good evening.
Yeah, sorry, you guys. I turned off my camera and then all of a sudden